Alrighty.
Give us back our title and our banner. Ain't that something? Some. Oh, I hate you too. I'm still buffering. It's not two shows, y'all. Just YouTube just making it difficult for us, that's all. It's just coming back. Give us some ones in the chat if you can hear us. Give us some ones in the chat if you can hear us, if we're coming through clearly. I don't know why my video's acting retarded. Like I said, give us some ones in the chat if you can hear us. Alright, so does anybody have any visual on YouTube? Cause I'm not, all I'm getting is a recycled screen with no visual.
Yeah, still buffering.
Is everyone still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. I don't
Just
feel
testing something on my end.
Say
It's
what?
buffering.
No, I was checking something on my end because it's back to acting wacky. One device up another one. It's not even showing up on the channel that is live.
Yeah, now it's saying it's the stream, the live stream is offline.
That's funny because now on the second device it's just showing live.
I got a buffering live with 3 people in the chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying now on one device.
And
Okay,
I'm
I got buffering live with 3 people in the chat on 2 devices.
So we're not even getting any audio now.
Just kick through on one device, audio, with the screen showing fruit and stuff on it. I got audio and video on the laptop now, and 6 people watching.
The dragon just said 1. Golden Moon said 1.
And what? Okay, so y'all can hear us. Can y'all see anything?
Yeah, it's rocking.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
there
I
we
can see
go.
the screen.
Wide is maze right now.
Okay.
Piano keys as well. Okay, I got a little buffer.
I got 7 people in the chat, and it's video and audio.
I got
now it's
7
10.
people. It's a little buffer every now and then, but I got 7 people as well.
I got 10 people in the chat.
And they can't hear us, I guess, because I'm not. Yeah.
I just hit keys.
Oh, we're delayed. Okay, hold on. I'm delayed. Let me fast forward. My bad. I was listening to the old TMH. I was like, TMH, you just asked us if we have visual. And now I'm buffering, trying to fast forward.
Okay, I got 12 people in the chat, and still nope, buffering.
I'm good. I'm not buffering anymore. It's only buffering when I try to fast forward to the end of it.
I see the
Yeah, I'm
stream.
good.
Yeah, I see the stream as well.
Yeah, crystal clear.
Tony says it's still stutter stepping every couple of seconds. And I'm getting that too. Every couple of seconds I get a buffer.
All right, I'm letting everybody in the website chat know that we're not streaming on the website for right now. We're gonna have to work that out this weekend.
No, the only thing we're gonna be able to do is let it go. We're not gonna let it do both.
Okay, we're just gonna do it from the website and the website only.
Switch it up.
Yeah, we move forward just to go directly to the website because see with Twitch, it'll allow us to take whatever we did there and cut it up to put directly to YouTube. So we don't need YouTube.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll just upload it to YouTube or upload a portion of it to YouTube and then
you can find the rest of it on the website.
Yeah, basically.
Yep.
That's what it's made for. I mean, come on, son. We out here delayed.
Celestial Love says it's buffering.
Fresh. Go to it and see if we're delayed.
Yeah, 'cause even on the buffering, that's on the individual. Everybody buffering is different. That's on the individual end.
Shouldn't go to move that on my mama. We good.
Yeah, it is crazy, Golden Moon. But like I said, it's their site. They can do what they want to do. The moment we agree to their terms and conditions, we give them autonomy to do that. So, it is what it is. So, you ready to read? No, Salah?
Yeah, real quick. Try pushing the buffer to 45 real quick. The bit rate, I mean.
All right, hold on.
At the moment, I cannot read, sir.
All right. David Coruscant's call out show. So I kicked the buffering up. I kicked the bit rate up. I mean the bit rate up to 4500.
We should be smooth for a while.
guest with the last four, 3411, hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. Does it sound better out there?
Yeah, we got a delay if anybody else is listening. I just heard Gabrielle say something about a 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes to 5 minute delay. But all that's out of all, that has nothing to do with us. That's on YouTube delivering it to the consumer.
Right. Yeah, that's a platform latency.
Yeah, there's nothing that we can do to fix that. We just have to get away from it.
Okay, I got a 5, maybe 10-minute delay. Like it's
Yeah,
playing.
that's on YouTube. Yeah, that's on YouTube's end.
Got it. The guest is on the. Okay, so I know who that is. I see Copper. I see Bones.
Oh, you trying to make sure you don't make that mistake from yesterday?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, Bones like that's Bones, man. Damn. No, guest 404 from the 404. There you go.
It's Rute.
What up, Enrique?
What's up, man? The buffering I couldn't deal with. I just called in.
I want to listen to it live, he says.
You about to make everybody jealous.
I mean, you ain't gonna make everybody jealous.
Everybody about to flood the lines. You got, man, the whole 17 people in the waiting room. I ain't dealing with this 2 to 5 minutes. You're already 2 to 5 hours late. Let's do this live.
See.
Like the here it go.
Antonio says, man, if y'all don't start the show. Alright, I'm going to start reading, so let me go ahead and share my... Look, that's your brother. You talk to him.
He did all that, and he could have clicked the link and helped troubleshoot.
I know, right? He could have.
Text.
He could have, but you know, why would he do that when he ain't got to?
Yeah, it makes too much sense.
Why would he do that when he ain't got to? Because it's like you said, it's too much like right. Mike Easton says, y'all back sort of kind of. Dave, of course, there's too many screens open, TMH. Jay Susquehanna says, LOL 111. Yeah, that's about a 5-minute delay, so. Alright, so being that you were not able to read, I guess I'll go ahead and read. Let me slide my screen up a little bit so I can see it. There we go. Whew. Like I can worked overtime already. We ain't even got started yet. Where's my mouse? Alright, so we're talking about the Texas Indian War. Are you serious? They put the date in between. Wow. Yeah, come on.
I do what I want to do.
Yo, I'm sorry, YouTube. I apologize. YouTube, please accept my apology. I did not mean to upset y'all. Jiminy Christmas. Alright, so. And they cut the music off. Anyway. So we're talking about the background. Texas Indian War. Texas developed in the region between two major cultural centers, pre-Columbian North America and southwestern tribes. Occupied in the areas to the west of the Plains, tribes occupied areas to the east. Archaeologists have found that three major indigenous cultures lived in this region and reached their development peak the recent development peak before the first European contact. The Pueblo from the upper Rio Grande region were centered west of Texas. The Mississippian culture or mound builder region extended along the Mississippi River Valley east of Texas. The Mesoamerican civilization was centered south of Texas. The influence of the Teotihuacan. Thank you, Teotihuacan. See, that's why I love having you up here. You know, Teotihuacan. Oh, sorry. In northern Mexico, peaked around AD 500 and declined over the 8th and 10th. Come on, man, y'all know I was gonna do that. 8th and 10th century. You know that, don't you? So, during the colonial era, members of the new cultures entered and settled in the area through competition for resources and power. They became adversaries. All were relative newcomers to Texas. Europeans began permanently settling in Texas around the Rio Grande and upwards towards San Antonio and El Paso starting in the late 1600s. They reached Nacogdoches around 1721. Is that like a form? What's that?
Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches? Nacogdoches what?
Yeah, the people down there don't pronounce it Nacogdoches.
So how do they pronounce it?
Is it Nacogdoches? Where James at? Or my brother know actually. I think it's Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches, like a duck at the end.
Nacogdoches.
Yeah, my dad corrected me when I said Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches. Okay. Around 1721, the Comanche had not what? What?
He just been moving right along.
Nacogdoches. Nacogdoches. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Nacho Doches, what? Nacogdoches? Anyway. The Comanche had not arrived into the northern area of the state until roughly the early 1700s. They did not become the predominant nation in the area until the late 1700s, following their successful adoption of the horse. Most other Plains Indians had already arrived by the mid-1700s. So basically what they're trying to say is that these are how all these Indians came to Texas. So you had the Pueblo Indians. You had the Mississippian culture, which were our ancestors. And you had the Mesoamerican civilization, which is centered around south of Texas. Mesoamericans were also your Yucatan or your Uli or your Aztec or your Mayan. So which were the ancestors of the Mississippian and the mound builders. Okay? So they're just giving you a heads up. Liz Robinson says she hadn't been able to hear anything to just now. So I'm just getting started. So we're on the Texas Indian War. Hold on, let me go ahead and copy and paste it. And we're on the background. So you should be able to see it on the screen. So now it talks about the Indians in Texas. I got you. Thank you, Cop. Appreciate you. Let's see. It says Indians in Texas. The people indigenous to northern Texas, including the Panhandle, are called the Southern Plains Villagers, including Panhandle culture, who included ancestors of the Wichita peoples. The Tonkawa are a confederacy of tribes indigenous to central Texas. Tribes indigenous to East Texas include the Caddo, or is it Cato? It's probably Cato, including Daish, the Hanai, the Caddo Cho, and Nakono, and Kitsai. The Akokisa and the Takapa, ooh, Lord, the Karankawan and Tamike lived along the Gulf Coast. I am not trying to repeat that. The Plains Apache and Kiowa migrated from the west into the present-day Texas prior to European contact. Until 1650, the Comanche were part of the Shoshone people living along the upper Plate River. If I need to be corrected, go ahead. You can break in. That's cool. Which means you're gonna be probably breaking in a lot, but it's all good.
It's all right.
I know I'm hurting some people's ears. The Comanche emerged as a distinct group around 1650. About this time, they acquired the horse, which allowed them greater mobility in their quest for better hunting grounds. The original migration took them to the southern Great Plains and to a span of territory extending from the Arkansas River to the central Texas. So let me ask y'all this question. It says they acquired the horse. Where'd they get the horse from? Like they just came up on a horse one day and found him. Like, hey, look at that, it looks good for riding.
Well, talking to Brother James, wasn't there a group of us that already utilized and bred horses?
Yeah.
I seem to remember him talking about that.
Yeah, he was. That's why I was asking the question, because I'm like, okay, what you mean they came up on, they acquired the horse? How you just acquire a horse? Did it just spring up from the ground? Like, here we go.
Right. How did they get there, especially in large enough numbers for them to really be able to utilize like that?
I didn't know a horse can sing to be a quiet horse.
You know what? see, that's that shit right. That's That's that ish right there I'm talking about. Excuse my language, people. My apologies. Just starting stuff. Okay, David Corey. You know what? We're gonna hire you to start reading. How about that? You gonna get paid? You gonna get paid nothing? He says, "Nacogdoches." Thank you. All right. So what was that? There's something about acquiring a horse.
Yeah, taking horses.
The original migration took them to the southern Great Plains into a span of territory extending from the Arkansas River to central Texas. During that time, their population increased dramatically because of the abundance of buffalo. So it had nothing to do with them making babies. Okay. The use of the horse for hunting and fighting, the adoption of other migrations, Shoshone, and women and children taken captive during raids and warfare. Ultimately, their warriors made such effective use of the horse that the Comanche became the most powerful Indian nation of the plains. Lily, don't do that. Ving Rhames, Christopher Columbus ain't get him no horse. Don't do that. First, as Shoshone, their conquest took them to the southern plains. There, they separated from the Shoshone and emerged as a distinct nation. They based their warfare on speed and calculated violence. Developing superb light cavalry skill in raids, they captured so many children and women of their opponent Indian tribes, keeping and adopting them, that they dramatically increased their population. Those tribes who submitted to Comanche power were given latitude, but had to provide food, lodging, and women as tributaries. Y'all hear that? I mean, like, did y'all hear that? You had to give food, lodging, and women as tributaries. That's messed up. But women, though? I mean, if you capturing women and kids, don't you got enough women? I mean, I don't know, is that asking the wrong question? It's not a head scratcher to anybody with me?
That sounds a little more like some land pirate stuff there. That's, that's forced commerce. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of them head scratches that make you want to do one of these numbers. I'm just saying. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. Won't be the first or the last time. David Corey says, what happened to the Apache? I ain't got to the Apache yet. David, stop reading ahead. Can somebody go get David? He not acting right. All right, so where was that? Oh yeah, Comanche wanted women and food and lodging. We want your house, we want your women, and we want your food. Well, basically, they just say they just want you out. Jay Susquehanna say what again, Jay? That's right, there's a delay, so I don't know how bad the delay is. So anyway, when the Comanche entered and when the Comanche encountered conflict against Spanish colonists, they blocked Spanish expansion to the east from New Mexico and prevented direct communication with the new Spanish settlers north of the Rio Grande. In turn, the Comanche and eventually Apache, see there you go, Apache, allies launched deep raids, spending thousands and at times tens of thousands of warriors. Hold on, it says spent. Hold on. Sending thousands and at times tens of thousands of warriors into Mexico. They successfully captured and enslaved thousands of Mexicans. Eventually, the numbers were so large that Hispanics made up nearly 30% of the Comanche nation. The Comanches were decentralized. Historically, they did not form a single cohesive tribal unit, but were divided into almost a dozen autonomous groups. The 12 bands had as many as 45 distinct divisions. Why is it they got 12 bands? What are they trying to say? Or is that just me reaching? Huh? No? Nothing?
No, you sound about right.
Okay, 12 bands. 12 bands, 12 tribes, 12 floors, 12 apostles. Okay, never mind. Those groups shared the same language and culture, but at times fought eternally in ritualized combat, and even as they cooperated at other times. In the 1740s, Tonkawa, Johannes, and others settled along the San Gabriel River. The Tonkawa allied with Bidais, Caddos, Wichitas, Comanche, and Johannes in 1758 and attacked and disseminated the Lipan. Apache and Mission Santa Cruz decimated the Lipan Apache and the Mission Santa Cruz de San Saba. Sounds like a bunch of takeover going on, if you ask me. I could be wrong. Hold on, give me a second. Alright. Let's see. The Tonkawa continued their southern migration into Texas and northern Mexico, where they then allied with the Lipan Apache. Also during the 1740s in Southwest, Spanish settlers sometimes captured American Indian children. Often it was common practice to have the children baptized and then adopt them into their homes, and they were raised to be servants. At first, the practice involved primarily Apaches, and eventually Comanche children were likewise adopted as servants. Okay, who did this? Oh, the Spanish settlers. They the ones that captured American Indian children, and often it was a common. Okay.
Yes, that's a good point. Look at how these people are operating. They're operating the same way, like you said, that conquistadors came in and demanded lodging, women and children.
Well, that's yeah.
And yeah, so they demanded all of these things, and you're seeing the same pattern here. So where are these people coming from? What allegiances do they have? Who are they tied to? Who's leading them? These are questions that we gotta keep in mind as we go through this.
Yeah. I mean, I could click on a Comanche to see. You think that'll help?
Couldn't hurt, I guess.
That's such a political answer.
What could go wrong?
He said it couldn't hurt, I guess. Comanche. Ooh, look at that! Look at that pretty flag. Are a Native American nation from the Great Plains whose historic territory consisted of the most present-day northwestern Texas and adjacent areas in eastern New Mexico, southeastern Colorado, southwestern Kansas, western Oklahoma, and northern Chihuahua. Oh Lord, Chihuahua. Is that it? Chihuahua within the United States. The government. Go ahead.
Chihuahua.
Yay!
Yes, Chihuahua.
Yes. Sorry.
The H is going to be silent in Spanish.
Man, it need to be invisible. Chihuahua with the United States. The government federally recognized the Comanche people as a Comanche nation headquartered in Lawton, Oklahoma, where Fort Sill is, which is where I was stationed from 88 to 92. No, 88 to 88. That's right, 88. That's why I did base training. Anyway, the Comanche became the dominant tribe of the southern Great Plains in 18th and 19th centuries. They often characterized as lords of the plains, and reflecting their East-wild prominence, they presided over a large area called Comancheria, which came to include large portions of present-day Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Doodle Vision says Comanche are Mongoloids along with the other Plains Indians. Yeah, they look like it. You're gonna do the eye test. The Ohio player says I need an OMAC helmet. Yeah, sometimes I feel the same way. It says the Comanche power depended on bison, horses, trading, and raiding. The Comanche hunted the bison on the Great Plains for food and skins. Stop. It says the Comanche power depended on bison, horses, trading, and raiding. What other people were known for raiding? Or having a Viking mentality? That wouldn't be your Mongoloid horde, would they? Or am I just reaching?
Oh no, that sounds about right. Pattern is the same.
You need a horn.
Until you need a horn. So, it says the Comanche hunted the bison of the Great Plains for food and skins. The adoption of the horse from Spanish colonists in New Mexico made them more mobile. There they go with that Spanish bringing horses crap. Mess. Stuff. My bad. They traded with the Spanish, French, Americans, and neighboring Native American peoples, and most famously, they waged war and raided European settlements as well as the Native Americans. So think about this: they traded with the Spanish, French, Americans, and Native American peoples. So remember when the United States Army was buying canoes and buying all this other stuff and needed somebody to fight with them? Who do you think they was getting? I'm just saying. They took captives from weaker tribes during the warfare, used them as slaves or selling them to the Spanish and later Mexican settlers. They also took thousands of captives from the Spanish, Mexican, and American settlers and incorporated them into Comanche society. Capturing and kidnapping is the same thing, Power 10-9, man. Decimated by European disease, warfare, and encroachment by Americans on Comancheria, most Comanches accepted life on the reservation. Why has it always got to be disease? And why is the disease always kill the Indians, but it never kill the slaves and it never kill the daggone Europeans? Can anybody answer me that?
Because they need to be gone so other people can be here.
Okay, just wondering. It says, a few, however, sought refuge with the Mescalero Apaches in New Mexico or with the Kicapools in Mexico. A number of them returned in the 1890s and early 1900s. In the 21st century, the Comanche Nation has 17,000 members, around 7,000 of whom reside in tribal jurisdictional areas around Lawton, Fort Sill, and the surrounding areas of southwestern Oklahoma. The Comanche Homecoming annual dance takes place annually in Waters, Oklahoma in mid-July. So my question is, they disappeared. They returned in 1890s. When they disappeared? It don't say. So how long will they come? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Just like we were saying, a week or so ago about how certain pieces of information get left out, so you don't really build context. You see them show up, but when did they exit? When did they exit stage right? They have to have exited to have returned. So, how long were they gone? Like you say,
Yeah,
but you had to dig a little further to find that out.
yeah. Well, no disrespect, but I'm more concerned with the Mississippians, the Alabama, the Uli, and the Mayans. So we have to dig on them later. The Numic language of the Udo Aztecan family, sometimes classified as a Shoshone dialect. Only about 1% of Comanche speak this language today. The name Comanche comes from the Udi, named for the people Kimansi, enemy. The name Padauca, which before about 1740 was applied to Plains Apaches, was sometimes applied to the Comanche by French writers from the East. Of course, the French would always insert what they think it should be.
Yeah, and if that's a French influence, that would be Paducah.
Paducah?
Yeah, Paducah.
I could have had. She wanted me to Paducah. The Comanche Nation is headquartered in Lawton, Oklahoma. Their tribal jurisdictional area is located in Caddo, Comanche, Cotton, Grady, Jefferson, Kiowa, Stevens, and Tillman county. Membership of the tribe requires a 1/8 blood quantum, equivalent to one great-grandparent. But how do you do that? How do you determine that? How do you determine blood quantum?
By guessing.
Oh, okay. Okay, so now I'm back to the Texas Indian War. That was a little bit about the Comanche. So, I'll put the link back in the chat so those can keep up. Okay. Prior to 1750, Apaches were highly influential in West Texas, but this changed with the Comanche incursion. Beginning in the 1740s, the Comanche began crossing the Arkansas River and establishing themselves on margins of the Llano Estacado. This area extended from the southwestern Oklahoma across the Texas Panhandle into New Mexico. The Apache were driven out in a series of wars, and the Comanche came to control the area. The domain extended south from the Arkansas River across central Texas into the vicinity of San Antonio, including the entire Edwards Plateau west to the Pecos River, and then north again following the foothills of the Rocky Mountains to the Arkansas River. Charles Clark says, you're bringing horses on those ships with slaves? Wow. You know that won't the case. Horses have been here. But I see your point. After driving out the Apaches, the Comanches were stricken by yellowpox epidemic from 1780-1781, as the epidemic was very severe. The Comanche temporarily suspended raids and some Comanche divisions were disbanded. A second smallpox epidemic struck during the winter of 1816 through 1817. The best estimates are that more than half the total population of the Comanche were killed by these epidemics. Stop. It says the second epidemic of smallpox struck during the winter of 1816 to 1817. It says the best estimates. Who's estimating and what are they using? And why did they just take a count? Am I missing something? Huh? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, just checking.
The one thing that I tell everybody to notice, the years in the timeline. All this is going on at the same time while Indians are in the southeast still fighting.
wait, I just read what I read what Doodle Vision put. He says kickapoo equals crap kickers. That's funny. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Juvenile at best, but still funny. I can't help it. Smallpox. I'm telling you, you can tell me that smallpox killed him, but you can't tell me how many it killed. And this is no disrespect, so please take it in its proper context as how it's meant. How hard is it to count dead people? That's like saying it's hard that you can't estimate how many people were sleeping. Where'd they go? What they do? Sleep and disappear? 9 times out of 10, if they sleep, they ain't moving. Just like if they dead, they ain't moving. So how hard is it to count? And why you got to estimate? I'm just saying.
Right. When you have a death toll that's as high as their legend, where the mass graves? Are they in the national parks that they don't want us digging in? Is that why they don't want us digging there? I mean, they don't have to create a park around it just to keep us from digging to find it. They can just say, no, there's a mass grave here. But they're not there. There are no mass graves for these people. Because there wasn't the die-offs like they're claiming.
Okay, so in response to the devastating loss of numbers, the Comanche effectively allied with the Kiowa and the Kiowa Apache. After one Kiowa warrior spent a fall season with the Comanche in 1790. Notice the timeline, 1790. That's when the first federal census was, right? Check. It says Fehrenbach believed the Union came from the necessity to protect their hunting grounds from settlers' incursions. So you gonna believe, you don't know? You couldn't talk to any of the tribes? Did all of them die from smallpox before you got a chance to talk to them? I don't know what happened. What we missing? David Corey said buffering just started back. I haven't changed anything. I just been reading. So that's probably something on your end or the deal with the device. It says the Kiowa Apache, as allies of the Kiowa, ultimately joined this alliance. Eventually, the three tribes agreed to share the same hunting groups and had a mutual self-defense and war pact. So let me get this right. You can say without a shadow of doubt that the Kiowa Apache allied and ultimately joined this alliance. And eventually the three tribes agreed to share the same hunting grounds and had a mutual self-defense and war pact. But you can't tell me why they got together in the first place. Doodle Vision says they are East Side Sami, aka Russians, aka Mongolians, aka East Asians, hung out in Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico area. Ohio Player says I have family in Paducah County. That's what's up. Okay, so Alabama and the Kusati. migrated into eastern Texas beginning in the 1780s and today are a federally recognized Alabama Coushatta tribe of Texas. Grand Rising, Jeffrey Gordon. So 1780 is when we see the Alabama and the Coushatta coming into Texas. And this time, this is not Texas. I do know that, right? Yeah, Dano Quam. We said some things to upset YouTube. I think they're mad at us because of what we had to say about Comcast. Either that or it's a severe coincidence. So it's starting to buffer heavy now. European and especially mixed-race Mexican colonists reached Texas prior to the end of the Spanish rule. Colonial authorities did not encourage colonization in this area, as it was too far from their base. The number of colonists was extremely limited, and they were always at risk of Comanche raids. By the early 1800s, as a result of the Comanche Wars, the Mexican Wars of Independence, and the collapse of colonial power, Mexican resistance to the Comanche tax had almost collapsed. Wow. Doodle Vision says, blood quantum equals 2 cups of sugar, 1 pint of corn syrup, 3/4 of bleach.
Shaken, not stirred. Shaken, not stirred.
Doodle, no sellout. David Corey wants you to stop the buffering. So, I know Doodle got people hurting over here. Let's see. Where we at? Yeah. Next paragraph. So, Copper, are you in a position to read?
Yes, I can. One moment.
All right.
All right. Where do you want me to start?
The second paragraph of Texan colonists, where it says, in contrast to the neglected military capabilities of Mexican authorities. See it?
I'm still standing.
We're on the Texas Indian War.
Okay. I apologize.
No, you good.
Which, as you said, second paragraph?
Second paragraph where it says, in contrast to the neglected military capabilities of Mexicans.
Okay. In contrast to the neglected military... Okay, hang on a second. Sorry.
Of course, that's what happens. It's supposed to happen that way.
In contrast to the neglected military capabilities of the Mexicans, authorities considered Americans as extremely aggressive in combat, and they were subsequently encouraged to establish settlements on the frontier in present-day Texas as a defensive bulwark to Comanche raids further south. Although most of these early Americans were ultimately killed, executed, or driven from Texas by Spanish authorities during the Green Flag Republic, the Comanches' subsequent raids deep into Mexico showed the practicality of Americans in holding the frontier. Consequently, the new regime quickly recruited Americans, the first of which was Stephen F. Austin, who was given a Spanish land grant in Texas. When Mexico won its independence from Spain in 1821, its government continued to recruit Americans as it wanted to develop its depopulated northern provinces. Moving forward into early Texas colonization. Mexican Texans from 1821 to 1836. In the 1820s, seeking additional colonists as a means of conquering the area, Mexico reached an agreement with Stephen F. Austin, reauthorizing his Spanish land grants. That allowed several hundred American families to move into the region. As Austin used his network and government sponsors to spread the word of rich lands in Texas, thousands of additional colonists from the United States flooded into the region, many illegally. Many had no interest in being ruled by the government of Mexico. In 1829, when Mexico abolished slavery throughout Mexico, the immigrants from the United States were exempted in some colonies or actively evaded governmental efforts to enforce its abolition in the territory. Under this change, many slaves in Mexico at this time were reclassified as indentured servants with the long-term goal of freedom. Americans did not like this policy and also objected to the central government's actions in tightening political and economic control over the territory. Eventually, these tensions resulted in the Texas Revolution. Go ahead.
Say what you got. So now you good.
There's some interesting points here. One is this particular individual, Stephen F. Austin, which is the namesake of the city of Austin. And it looks like we have a situation here where there are a lot of slaves that are in Texas. Notice there's no reference here to any being shipped in or moved or migrated from anywhere else. If all of this was either Indian or Spanish territory, where did these slaves come from? They make no mention of any African slaves showing up here, yet you have people who are enslaved. And everybody assumes that the people that were seen as slaves were Africans. So that's one point that this passage and the previous paragraph leaves out conveniently. That was one thing that I caught in this, but also the abolishment of slavery that didn't really happen, at least right as they claimed it was supposed to have happened. So we're seeing, like we saw in other parts of the United States, where the law is saying that the slavery needs to end, but people are kind of trying to circumvent it at that point. You also have the influx of illegal immigrants, which, as we can see, is still a problem to this day. All of this stuff is connected. This labor force, this cheap, if not free labor force, at that point seen as slavery and indenture, is now seen as illegal immigration. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. What was once called indentured servitude now is illegal immigration.
And to that point, on one hand, we are supposed to be fighting against illegal immigration, but on the other hand, while that's happening, we're also putting advertisements in Mexico and other countries in Central and South America for people to come here. There are NGOs that are paying people to come here, which is why some of those caravans that were coming up through Central America from Guatemala and other places would pass right through Mexico and not take the Mexican government's offer of citizenship, because they weren't concerned about that. They were being paid to come here. There's people in Mexico that are paid to come here. So on one hand, we act like we don't like it and want these immigrants here. On the other hand, we're paying for them to come here.
That's a good point, and I think that's something that needs to be pointed out and reminded about, because again, we don't know what we don't know, because we don't know everything that the government is doing, if that makes sense.
Right, and you'll see here as well, because none of this has really changed. While we're seeing a modern iteration of it, none of this has really changed. So you have the government saying one thing, and then you have entities that are created by the government or work in tandem with the government doing the exact opposite thing. So they're playing against each other, even though it's all controlled by the same group. Yes, I can read the next paragraph. Give me a second here. All right. In 1821, while colonists were still welcome, Jose Francisco Ruiz negotiated a truce with the Pinatuca Comanche, the band closest to the settlements in East and Central Texas. Following that truce, he was able to complete a treaty of peace and friendship, which was signed in Mexico City in December 1821. But within 12 months, the Mexican government failed to pay the presents promised to the Pinatuca, who resumed raiding at once. For the same reason, failure to pay promised tributes, the peace treaties signed for New Mexico broke down. By 1823, war raged the entire length of the Rio Grande. Most of the remaining Mexican settlements were destroyed. Only those in the upper Rio Grande were secured. Thousands of surviving Mexican refugees, fled to this area. The Comanche pushed out or killed most Europeans and Mexicans in the region, except for European American Texans. In 1824, the Tonkawa entered into a treaty with Stephen F. Austin, the father of the Republic of Texas, pledging their support against the Comanche tribe.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah,
there's a lot going on here. There really is, and you begin to see the picture, and look at the time frame, 1821. You begin to see the painting of a picture of, as brother James has said, the last stand of where the stronghold was here in Texas, and why there's such a violent history in the destruction of the people of this area and the creation of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
They created a beast, y'all. Think about it. 1821. 10 more years from now, what is it? The Trail of Tears? So,
that's correct.
Doesn't it seem like they're removing people out west so they can bring the people from the east out west?
Right. Anytime.
Because in order for you to set up it,
Hmm?
yeah, because think about it. They're telling you about Indians that's living in Oklahoma already before you sent Indians from the east to Oklahoma.
Exactly. When you have a planned migration of people, you got to clear the land out first, and that's what we were talking about in terms of cholera and all these other diseases that supposedly wiped out all of these Native Americans. They had to disappear. They had to be removed, and so part of their removal wasn't just removing their bodies, but also reclassifying them and claiming that the majority of them just died off, because you can explain it away and dead men tell no tales. So who of these supposedly dead men are gonna stand up and say, no, I'm still here, or I died off, or give any proof to any of these claims? When you say they're dead, nobody asks for any proof. Nobody asks for a follow-up. Nobody asks for any type of verification that any of this happened. They just take it as truth. So this is, between that and reclassification, this has been how they've removed certain people so they could bring in other people to replace them.
I mean, but it would think about it. It would make more sense for them not to keep account or take account for them, because he's an Indian, not taxed. So they're not making any money off of them anyway. So it's easy to get rid of them or write them out. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And when we were talking about the laws in South Carolina about how Indians not in amity with the government were thereby extinct. How do you extinct a people? You kill them, whether it's on paper or whether it's actually it's physically killing them. It's genocide. You can just say, well, they don't exist anymore. They're all dead. So that's how you kill them off. And because when you look at these wars, when you look at all of these skirmishes that happen between the United States government, the Mexican government, and the people that were already here, they were not able to conquer them the way they had been conquering other peoples. They weren't able to beat them into submission, not by normal means. So they had to resort to pretending they just didn't exist and slicing and dicing them. That way they could over time, over generations, convince them they were somebody else and move them around. Because we don't look at ourselves. I mean, even if you look at the idea of us being urban Indians, which is absolutely true, nobody's looking at the way our population is as if we were still a tribal people. Nobody says I live in North Carolina, so I'm affiliated with this tribe, but I'm enemies with this other tribe. No. You go wherever you wish around the country, and the people that look like you just assume are your tribe because they're quote unquote black or African American or whatever have you. So now that they've sliced and diced everybody, they can mix them back in, and nobody has their identity, so nobody's the wiser about what went on. This is how we got to this place. So I just wanted to point that out.
And you copied yourself, Copper. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, I slipped and hit the mute button.
Nine Ether brought up a good point that dude follower says that Austin from Austin, Texas, he said, y'all must research the old 300, which he stole and sold lands to the selected 300 families. And Doodle Vision says, yes, old 300. So if anybody has that information, then what I would suggest is if you know where to go to get it, go ahead and put it in a forum so that we can build and discuss on it. So the Doodle Vision says the Mexicans were not recruiting Americans. They were soliciting Indians to come to Mexico. Oh, well, more likely, would that be come back to Mexico? Doodle, just asking. I know you in the. Hold on, you in the chat. You in the panel, so can you elaborate on that if you're able to, sir? Please, thank you.
Yes, as I put in the back chat in the wee hours, when you get to John Horse, as they call him, aka this so-called African American Seminole, which we know he was not. He was Seminole, period. That with the help of the ISA via the ships, they were shipping Seminoles from Florida back to the Caribbean and into Mexico. It was an all out, like I say, it was Armageddon, and they was coming back to say we need to get together, all of us, Alabama, those that came from the mother civilization. We need to get together and fight off what they call, and I'm quoting them, the white man. It was not this recruiting of these so-called Americans. You're going to find out there were so many skirmishes and battles that were going on because these volunteers were coming from Kentucky and Tennessee, these Melungeons, because again, as these Irish and Germans were coming over from New York and especially through Ohio, the Melungeons were being forced to go south and west. So as they started coming down and the volunteers, and that's what was in the chat about the old 300, you're going to find out the majority of these old 300s that were stealing land and all of that, these were from Kentucky and Tennessee. They were not recruiting them. That's why you're going to see battles going on up until the 20th century. On the other side of the 20th century, getting into literally the 1950s, they were still fighting. They were recruiting us. Look at Vicente Guerrero. That was the first president or first ruler of what was known as Mexico. He was literally recruiting, and one of his recruits was John Horse, aka Juan Cabellos, meaning the horse, who is Seminole. So they were recruiting to say we need to fight them. This is our last stand. So you had to the west of them, you had all the Plains Indians. the Comanche, the Arapaho, all these other groups, which are your Mongoloids, your Russians, your East Asians, whatever you want to call them, all this other group. That's that group that they keep talking about. Oh, you're Native American, but you have East Asian DNA. Come on, son. So it's that group. And you read about the Caddo. The Caddo again was the peak of where the Natchez were. That's why you're gonna see Nacogdoches. You're gonna see all these other places. You're gonna see Waco. You're gonna see Tawakoni, and all of these settlements. That gets into it was everybody coming together for this final battle. But they were not recruiting, quote unquote, Americans as we think of those that were European colonizers. They were not recruiting them. They were recruiting Indians to come back home. I yield the mic. Look up President Guerrero. I yield the mic.
Yeah, I got the link that you posted in the back chat about Gopher John, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. The two parts. It says, Gopher John was a leader of the Seminole Negroes. He led his people to Oklahoma, then across Texas to Old Mexico. In Mexico, he was given the name John Caballo or John Horse because he was very good with horses. Hold on. John Caballo or John Horse because John became very famous when he joined the Mexican army to fight against Maximilian's troops. John Horse was so brave that he was made colonel. He became known as El Coronel Juan Caballo. The Mexican army gave John a silver-mounted saddle with a gold-plated pommel in the shape of a horse's head. He used that saddle when riding his favorite horse, American. John Horse and his people lived on the border of Texas and Mexico. They were waiting to move to the Indian Territory. They lived at the reservation of Fort Duncan as they waited to move. The Seminoles farmed and the land hunted for game. While there in 1870, the Seminole Negro men, that's BS. Seminole Negro, same people. They know Seminole Negro. That's like saying a black African American. The Seminole Negroes became very valuable to the frontier army. They understood both English and Spanish and could converse in Mexican, which was a language spoken in the region. Also, they had lived in the border country for more than 20 years and knew the land and the Indian bands that lived or came. And I'm about to go to the next one. Give me a second. So then it goes on to read that Seminole Negro, again, that's like saying black African American. They enlisted as scouts for the United States Army. The Seminole Negroes became very valuable to the frontier army. They understood both English and Spanish and could converse with Mexicans, which was a language in Mexican, which was a language spoken in the region. Also, they had lived in the border country for more than 20 years and knew the land and the Indian bands that lived or came to the area. The Seminole Negroes were excellent warriors and experts in frontier combat. The scouts wore clothes that looked like Indian fashion, but later on they were given the usual uniform of Army Scouts. John Kibitz was made leader of the Scouts, and his men respected and obeyed him. His Seminole name was, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, Sitatastonaki, or Cheeto Tastanuki, a snake warrior. He was very smart and reliable. John Horse never became a scout, but served instead as advisor of John Kibitz. Then it goes on to read, descendants of Chief John Horse and Sergeant John Kibitz and their people still live in South Texas near Brackettsville. Chief John Horse's grandson, John Jefferson, was a scout with the 10th Cavalry. He was a Buffalo soldier. James, are you in a position to further comment on that part of John Jefferson being a scout with the 10th Cavalry and how that came about? Or is that something we need to talk about at a later date?
We could probably get into, because it's getting the depth circling back around to talking about these Buffalo soldiers. And that's what I was saying before, that these Buffalo soldiers were your Seminoles. That was the only way Well, I'm put it this way: they never defeated the Seminole. Never defeated the Seminole. So they started paying the Seminole off, saying, if you will help us to guard, and you'll find out that all these Seminoles were becoming your rangers, your Texas Rangers. They were your ranchers that were going out west. They were your U.S. Marshals that were dealing with these Comanches and these Arapaho, the AKA Mongolians out west, because they already knew the land. They're trying to sit here and say again that you look at caballos. Caballo is horse in Spanish. John Horse, father's what we would call surname was Caballos. So how did the Mexicans give him the Spanish name of Caballos when he already had it as being a Seminole in Florida, because that's his father's name? That's what they try to keep confused people, like, oh yeah, well his mother was an African slave. Wait a minute, Seminoles didn't have slaves. That's why they were taking in the Creeks, which we know are Alabama, during the Creek Wars. When the deal that was made, the Treaty of Ghent and the Treaty of Fort Jackson, that made everyone in those lands slaves. So they were running into Florida because that was still Spanish Florida. They would never so it's like you sitting here and saying that the Seminoles had slaves. Why would the Seminoles have slaves when they were their family members? These are cousins. These are sister tribes, and they were protecting one another. So where did this African woman come from that John Horse's father had a child with, but she was an African slave? From where? They had not penetrated Florida. They weren't even starting to get close to getting into Florida until after the Creek Wars, which was a continuation of all these Indian wars. I like Brother No Sellout all the time. Timelines, man.
Why would an escape so-called African? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's just play out their narrative. But why would an escaped African be running to Texas?
Exactly.
Ain't your freedom with Harriet and the North Star? Ain't that freedom following Harriet with the North Star? I'm just saying, so why would they be going to Texas?
That right there is the ultimate question. That's why I said I want to know Harriet Winslow. Why did the last few episodes they changed her out? Somebody else, they whitewashed her, and the youngest daughter went upstairs and never came back. Can anybody tell me what happened? All these people keep disappearing. All these Indians keep getting smallpox and all the rest of this stuff, and you got this influx of people, outflux of people, and you're gonna find out these chiefs of these tribes in Oklahoma today are nothing but your mixture of your $5 Indian and these Mongoloid, these plain Indians. They just took our name. That's all they did. These people didn't.
Government appointed since 1934. Government appointed since 1934.
All these battles were going on, and they knew, and they said, okay, the Rio Grande, it's like, okay, you control this area. That's why still to this day, that's why I was putting pictures in the back chat. Still to this day, you will find those descendants of the Seminole. They still live in South Texas today. And all of a sudden, like you said before, all of these come to Texas, and you telling me that it was literally 140 so-called slaves to one European in Texas. Come on, son. These were Indians that were already here, that they're trying to tell you, oh, such is a slave, but they can never tell you who was the slave master, what plantation were they on. They can never tell you that. Never. We were already here. It wasn't this, miraculously, you come in the fight, but you got slaves too. And the slaves aren't bashing you in the back of the head. You traveling from Kentucky, from Tennessee, you coming down all through Indian territory to come and fight. And nobody's no slave rebellions. Come on, son. It was us. It was the final battle. We were fighting on two different fronts. We had to fight three different fronts, because we were fighting the Melungeons coming from the north. To the east, we were fighting the Union soldiers that Andrew Jackson And then to the west, we were fighting the Plain Indians. So it was literally the coming together of all of these groups of people to fight for Texas because they knew it was the last stand. All these different tribes coming together, and you're going to find out, like I said, again, look up Guerrero, and you will find out he is literally saying, you can stay here, you can stay there. That's why dealing with John Horse, he was like saying, this is the land you can have for the people. That's the land you can have for the people. Here, because they knew that in order to fight, you had to have land to settle, to dig in, and you got to dig in to fight. So then I'm passionate about it, you know, and I apologize today, but it is really to the point to where I'm tired of people that look like us are trying to paint this narrative of all of us were slaves, but all of a sudden we get down into Mexico and we know how to fight. And then they talk about the Mexicans having inferior weapons, but we know that the British were giving the Mexican weapons as well as the Indians and the Spanish were too. So put all of this in order, because you got all these rebellions going on in the Caribbean islands. This you know, early to mid 1800s, all these Indian wars that are taking place, Creek Wars, Seminole Wars. Then you get into Texas, then you get into Mexico, you're dealing with the Caste Wars, the Orange Wars. All this is going on. These are not separate, independent, isolated incidences. This is the same war. It was us against them. Like I said, all the ports that you find, Port Arthur, Galveston, all of that, those were ITSA ports. That ITSA was our Navy. This is how you read before about the Seminole War, how the ships, the ITSA ships, they were using ships and they never say who they are. That's what kills me. How people were going from one place to another, but they were going by water, but they would never say ITSA. But it was ITSA that was taking the people back to Mexico, saying, let's go back home and let's fight. Let this be the last stand. I know I'm rambling on and I apologize, but I yield the mic and I hope I answered your question, Brother Thomas.
Yes, you answered my question, and no, you are not rambling. So, yeah, don't ever feel like that, because you're not. The information that you offer and provide is very valuable, and it helps a lot of us in the chat and on the panel. So we definitely appreciate you. So the picture I posted was the one that Ohio Play had posted a link for. And the portrait was of Vincent Ramon Guerrero Saldaña. So I'll show it again. There it is. Again, that is Victor Ramon Guerrero Saldaña.
Yes, Saldaña, like Zoe Saldaña, the actress. They tend to take the Inye out of her name, but it's Saldaña.
Saldaña.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
The only one talking about him having African roots is when I say European media, I'm talking about American as well. So do not let the smooth taste fool you. He knew who he was as an Indian, as a Maya, as a descendant of the Olmec, aka the Uli. He knew who he was, and he was calling his cousins home to fight. And this was nothing new, because you look at this by the same token. Why, again, this is the question to ask, why, again, would the Mexican government, newly established Mexican government, recruit Americans, and they knew that these Americans were promoting and trying to expand slavery? Look up, Mexico had banned slavery. So why would they be inviting Americans into Mexico when they knew that it was still the establishment about slavery, even going on and getting to the Alamo, find out who were the survivors. It was the Indian prisoners of war that Sam Bowie and all the rest of them had. Why did they let them walk out? Why did they execute David Crockett and all the rest of them, but they let John and all the rest of them and a few women and children walk out of there? See, you got it. When you put the whole picture together, it starts to make sense.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't they assassinate the Mexican president because of that?
Yes, sir. And look at John Horse again, what it says that he was the El Colonel. It was equivalent to what we would say, Indians would say, as warrior chief. Why would they make John Horse warrior chief? Think about it. They understood we were cousins. It's coming back home. That's all it was. It's saying this is our final stand. We can't go anywhere else. They have pushed us as far west as they can push us, and the Comanche and the Apache and all of these other Arapaho and all these other Mongoloid Plains Indians are pushing down on us. We have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. So that, like I say, this was the last stand, and still battling up until the 1950s. And, well, really, still literally battling today. And I don't mean any harm, because I'm not trying to, but when you're dealing with war, you're dealing with war. A couple of days ago, there was a so-called Mormon family that was caught up. They talking about crossfire. It was no crossfire. It was retaliation for the policies that the United States government is trying to establish, that they have been trying to establish, because they're still trying to get into Mexico. The war still continues. Now, the views expressed are those of James Flames, aka Do Division, and that of not of A2. So if anybody try to flag this channel, come see me, send me an email, send it to autonomousassembly@gmail.com. I yield the mic.
Pamela Hall, that picture was of what did I say his name was? Give me a second.
I got you covered. It's Vicente Ramon Guerrero Saldaña.
Yeah. What copy said? Oh, how you play? I hope you putting all this stuff in the form. Because it'd be easy for people to access it. Just asking.
And then Mitch is in there as well. Like I said, you'll see, and there's two different meanings, and I'll say that again. When you see Afro, and I'm gonna put it out there, when you see Afro, Mestizo, Afro Mexica, Afro Latina, it is not a connection to Africa. It is describing their hair. You've heard me say this phrase before. It is saying Chilango. Your she goes back to the Olmec, saying they had curly or frizzy hair. Had nothing to do with Africa. Has everything to do with their hair texture. That's why if you look at him, it shows him, Guerrero, as saying that he's Afro Mestizo, saying that he knows who he is, that he is of the descendants of the Olmec. He is Chilango. That's nothing to do with Africa. They're going to try to put that in there and try to fool you. And I'm telling you, he's not. Because with all of these ships, because again, if all of these were African, where is the documents, or where's the oral tradition that all of these Indians got together and said, hey, we're African, let's go back to Africa? Why did they decide to stay here and fight? I yield the mic.
Thank you, Brother James. I want to add a little piece to that because he set this up. What I'm about to tell you. One of the nicknames that Guerrero had was El Negro, and it says in the article about his early life. The region where he grew up had a large concentration of indigenous groups, and as a young man, he was more conversant in the local language than in Spanish. He was speaking as what he was, which was an Indian. Let us not forget that. They're telling you that right here. Don't let any talk about him being African or of African descent fool you. This man, like Brother James said, this man knew who he was, and he spoke the language of the people there. More so than he did in Spanish, despite having the Spanish name.
You know what else we got to remember too? At this time, they wasn't calling nobody no African. They wasn't even calling the continent Africa. The word wasn't even being used.
Nope, the continent was still called Ethiopia at the time.
Because think about it, even to this day, nothing is new. When somebody comes from that landmass over there, they don't consider themselves African. They tell you they nation or the house they come from. So why would it be any different back then? You would have a record on where you got these people from. You would know exactly what landmass and what nation they came from.
A very good point, Bones. Because if you remember the directions for the 1860 census, they wanted you to be very specific about foreigners and where they came from. Do y'all remember that?
Yep.
They didn't want you guessing. If you didn't know, you had to put you don't know. But if you knew, you had to tell it down to the city or the county or the town. Again, if you want to find out if that was the case before 1860, all you have to do is do a search. I don't care which platform you use. Do a search on the United States Census enumeration instructions, and then just put the year in front of it. So it's either going to be 1790, 1800, 1810, 1820, 1830, 1840, 1850, 1860.
Because think about it. If you was a German at that time, they couldn't just put German. They had to be direct where from in Germany you came from. Like you said, they wanted direct information. You couldn't just say I was from France. No, they wanted to know exactly where from France.
And another reason you got to look at it, because even with certain countries, there are people that are mortal enemies. You don't want to be putting people together or having them live in areas and where they're going to be constantly fighting and tearing up the land or tearing up the territory. So you got to also pay that amount. That's why they grouped them together in groups. So you needed to know where they was from. I mean, to me, that just makes sense. Grand Rising and Mary, Rick and Leo. Grand Rising Arawakkin.
And I look at it like this. We know the atrocities that they did in history. We know what they pulled off. Do we think for any chance they're going to leave that door open to let somebody else do it? That they're not going to vet everything else that came after them to make sure nobody else does it? I still want to know why African Americans and Africans are listed separately on the U.S. population.
I mean, they should be listed together, right?
And why somebody who's born and raised on a continent they call Africa moved to America, why they're not considered an African American, but I am, and I'm not born there. My mama not born from there. But
Did you
we'll get called African American.
Hold on. Did you say
the
your
person that
mama,
was born there
mama?
No,
My
he
mama wasn't born there. But somebody who was born there 3 years ago come to America, they not an African American, but I am. Something wrong with this equation.
said.
It's that Ghana math. That's what it is.
That mathematics, man.
Anybody found any Indian ships headed east to Africa? Anybody yet? No.
You said any Indian ships heading east to Africa?
Yeah, taking runaway slaves. Anybody? No.
Mm-mm.
Not one letter. Just somebody was an Indian writing home to his great grandmother that he put it in a bottle and it washed up on the West African shores. Nobody? Anybody?
Does Haiti count?
No.
Is Africa?
When they tried to apply for the African Union, they told them they not African.
I mean, don't you think an African would know if you were African or not? I mean, I'm just saying. Don't they know their people? I mean, they do know their people, right? I could be wrong. But a European gonna try to tell you you're African, but an African telling you ain't African, but a European telling you you're African. So what's really going on here?
Right. And I would go
that's
as
the
far
craziest part. That's the craziest part about this whole story. The people that's trying to tell you African don't even live in the place they're trying to put you.
nor do they desire to. They'd rather be here, ironically enough. And I would go as far as to challenge anybody that hears this recording, anybody that tunes in to this group, anybody to provide, if possible, any nations or any house's story there in Africa where they corroborate this slave narrative that we have in the United States. And I say that with confidence because if you look at, because people cite Wikipedia as, oh, that's not a real source, even though the sources for what statements are made are at the bottom of each page, so you can go look them up for yourself. Other countries, other territories outside the United States have their own Wikipedia as well. It has a different iteration. Like, so if you live in France, it's Wikipedia.fr instead of .org in the United States. And you'd be surprised if you translate some of these pages. There's a very different story about all of this than we get here in America. So I would challenge anyone, as I said, to come up with and provide any tribe or any house's story that corroborates this transatlantic slave narrative, this fantasy, this Disney movie that we've been given, where these people have come over here in the trunk of ships and somehow with these great people and lost all that knowledge, but gained it back when they got here. So it doesn't exist, but again, the challenge has been given. So if anybody can provide that, I would, and I'm sure everyone else here on the panel and everyone else here, they too would be more than happy to take a look and verify that.
Look, could you do me a favor, Copper, so we can eliminate the excuse? Would you post some of those links to those wiki pages from other countries in the forum so people could just click on them and be able to access them, just in case, for whatever reason they can't find them or they don't know how to look them up? Would you be able to do that?
Certainly. Yes, I could, certainly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you know what else is weird? Add on.
No, go ahead. No, you good.
Add on to what Copper was saying, what's weird. You never noticed the only nations from this place they call Africa that talks anything about slavery, if you study them and do the history, they turn out to be American colonies. No places where America over there that don't have influence talk about slavery like how they do in America. This African story. You got Ghana saying it now, but you study the history of Ghana. That's America's partner. That's what they're trying to colonize. It's an American colony.
You mean to tell me those same places that keep showing up on these DNA tests
are American colonies? If you study the area where they're telling you on these ancestral so-called DNA tests, yeah, that's the area of American colonies.
Cobb, stop playing, Cobb. You mean to tell me Sierra Leone? Come on, Cobb. Don't tell me that, Cobb.
Sierra Leone, American colony. Liberia, American colony.
Are you serious, Cobb? Is that what you're telling me, man? You're telling me that all these places were American colonies, but no one showing up with any Indian DNA on these tests, Cobb? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what they try to sell you. I wouldn't buy it.
I just took a long pause there because I want people to realize the game that is being played to get you off of your land. That's what this whole series has been dealing with, to get you off of your land. And again, no one, because it's all these wars and stuff we're talking about now, because we're in the 1820s, getting into the 1830s. All of this is going on, but you still have the American Colonizational Society that's shipping Indians to these colonies. You also have the British that's doing the same thing. So why is it that all these Indians decide, hey, let's reunite in Texas instead of getting on British or American ships and go, quote unquote, back to Africa? Why are they choosing to die on this soil? It's not logical unless you knew you were from here. There's no other way that anybody in their right mind will put their families in harm's way when they say, oh, we already got some established for you in Africa. Why didn't they go? Just let that sink in the next time you all have a conversation with someone that's trying to convince you. And I'm not saying bless their hearts, blesstheirheart.com. If they are West African, knock yourself out. Be the best you can be. Get your dashiki and kente cloth and do what you need to do. But when you start checking your genealogy and you start to find out, because I've seen it for the last few days. Everyone's saying, "Wow, oh, such my folk came to Texas and they spent time." This is why. This was Armageddon. And I don't care what southern tribe you are from, you are going to find some remnant here in Texas, some connection here in Texas. And now you know why. I yield the mic.
That's a profound point. And that just reminded me of something else that I found out about Vicente Guerrero. Something James said about why these people were willing to fight and to die over this place. Why this place is so important. Because we find so many people who say, well, I don't like how things are here. I don't like the government here. I don't like the society here. I don't like the mentality of people here. I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to go somewhere else in the world where I'll be happy. If I just go somewhere else, everything will be right. These people were in a very bad situation. And as Brother James said, they banded together because they knew they didn't have anywhere else. They didn't have anywhere left on their own land. And they decided to fight because it was worth that, this being their land. Vicente's father, Pedro, supported Spanish rule, whereas his uncle, Diego Guerrero, had an important position in the Spanish militia. Now, as an adult, Vicente was opposed to the Spanish colonial government. When his father asked him for his sword in order to present it to the viceroy of New Spain as a sign of goodwill, Vicente refused, saying, "The will, quote, the will of my father is for me sacred, but my fatherland is first." Let me say that again. The will of my father is for me sacred, but my fatherland is first. That's a powerful statement. And the people who fought here in Mexico and in Texas, the people that put up that resistance, understood what they were fighting for. We've been taught, like a lot of our ancestors have been conditioned and taught to not value this land, to take what rude things people do to us as a sign that we need to leave this land. That's a very old scheme that they've been using on us for generations. And we've succumbed to this because we've given up who we are. We've not only forgotten, but we've given up even trying to figure out who we are. And we allow everyone else to come in and tell us who we are and tell us where we're from and where we need to go, because they build this romantic story up about this fictional people that supposedly came here against their own will.
Add the mental part to it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you add the psychological part to it, on what it's really designed to do, and I'm going to keep this very simple. The reason why there's so much spent on making you believe this is not your home, because if you don't believe this your home, then you don't care what they do to it. Again, if you do not believe this is your home, then what they do to the land, what they do to the air here, what they do to the resources here, you don't care. Because you're too busy thinking some other place is your home while they're raping yours.
Exactly. And that's why they need you off of this land mass so bad. Because their existence here is dependent upon it. Like we've been saying, and like we've been talking about this show and previous shows. When you move large amounts of people to a place, the folks that are already there have to leave in order to make that work, or else we got a problem. And the problem that we face are these wars that we're talking about. Because these people were saying, we're not going to move. This is our land. This is the land that we were born on, that our parents were born on, that our people are from. We are from this soil and we will go no place. So this is what we have to remember. This is a part of how we reclaim who we are. We have to value our land. Once you know it's your land, you have to value it. You have to cherish it, because this land is you. It is your ancestors. It is your children. And this is who you are. And you have to be willing to defend it. You have to be willing to grow and to build. Because if you don't do that here, as you can see, everybody else around the world will do so. Now I yield the mic.
Gabby, you had something that you want to say? The question that you asked? I know it's been a while.
No. No, it just got answered. Honestly, I'm trying to figure out these timelines. I search for stuff online, but I also go to the books I already have in my house. The thing that I don't know if I'm having trouble with it or if I'm missing the connection, but the timelines don't make sense, because in one book where it'll break down the war, the Seminole War, the first, second, and third, or even the Texas American or a Mexican War. Like, every book adds a little background noise to what else was going on. But it just doesn't make sense that all this was literally happening at the same time. Like they didn't have cars and they didn't have train, or they didn't have cars. They didn't have motor vehicles to move fast. So when they sent a message, it took time. When they did all these things that they're saying they did, and they're putting the time, like the distance, the amount of time it would take to send a message like, hey, we need troops, or we need supplies. It would take time for that message to get there, and it would take time for, if there was a response, to come back, if that makes sense. So I'm having a hard time trying to figure out does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense, but I think one of the things that you may not be taking into account, and I'm saying may not because I don't know for a fact, you got to realize the Mississippi has been dammed up. So a lot of routes that would have been shortcuts, which would allow people to travel faster by water, are no longer there because of the dams. You got to realize you could literally take the Mississippi all the way from the east to the west coast.
Right.
But you can't do it now because of all of the dams. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bones.
If I'm waging wars, and look at this like this, what I tend to do is I don't look at the Seminole War as a war. It's a battle. See, the invasion is the war. All these things that they label as wars to us, those are just battles in one continuous war. Right. And what's the first thing in war you must do? Cut off transportation and communications. See, the reason history will tell you that these are different events, so that way you don't put the full puzzle together. You look at them as isolated events. But when you step back and you look at it, hold on, this is a world engagement playing out over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Right.
Because even to this day, who's on the front lines of the U.S. military? The misidentified American Indian, still doing the fighting, still helping this nation colonize the rest of the world. That's all the U.S. military is doing, colonizing, going to a foreign land, setting up a base, and changing people's way of life. Making you adopt this American lifestyle. That's colonization.
That's right. And as they bring you in to their colonization, when they show their military might around the world, what are they naming those weapons? Those helicopters. They're naming them after you.
Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
When they send them those jet black Pequot helicopters in the dead of night to go take over something. Or to go kill, I don't know, highly sought after wanted terrorists. They're doing that in your name. They're using your ancestors' names
to colonize the planet.
Still dressing up as you, Boston Tea Party.
That's right.
Yeah, camouflage was an Indian technique used in ambushes because they was also hunting prey, meaning animals. So you had to blend in. Remember, if you think about the way Europeans fought, they fought in lines. They fought out in the open. They didn't fight guerrilla. They didn't use what they call guerrilla tactics. They learned those tactics from our ancestors. They would fire volleys while one line is loading, the other line is firing, and so forth and so on. So they fought straight up and down like on a chessboard. So they didn't learn guerrilla tactics until they came across our ancestors. So the way they fight now is the way that our ancestors fought. That's the reason why when you hear about these Europeans first coming over here in the 15 and 1600s, they going back with their butts whipped. Because not only were they couldn't see who was fighting them, they also get attacked by the animals. So again, that stuff is found in the archives over there. You won't find that stuff over here. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
That's right. Now they'll present it as if they're training you the way they trained the Roman legion. They're presented as if they're training you like they were training the Greek phalanx. But like Thomas said, that's all what they got from us. The same way they told you that this form of government that we have is a Roman republic. It's not a Roman republic, it's a democratic republic. That came from the people that were here. Just because they give you this imagery of the two fasci that the president speaks in between when he addresses the joint assembly of Congress, that represents Rome, but they didn't get that from Rome. They didn't get this government from Rome. They didn't get this military from Rome either. These are your ancestors that they studied and emulated and recruited. The Civil War was fought by your ancestors, by Indians, not some Africans that were trying to get freedom here. No, because Africans, when they came here, by and large, were free people. They're talking about Indians that were fighting for their survival, that were confederating for their survival. Always remember that. This nation lives and dies by your presence and by your permission. Period.
So, looks like we was able to get this information out. Thank you for hanging in there with us. And we thank you for sticking with us. But we are moving to our own platform. We are moving to our own website and our own server. So we highly encourage anybody that wants to continue to watch what we're doing to register on the website. Log on, get your log on ID and things of that nature. It is free. It does not cost anything. Because we do not want to continue to have to be, what's the term I'm looking for? Somebody help me out. Controlled by YouTube. And again, it's voluntarily controlled. I mean,
yep.
We're being voluntarily controlled because we don't have to use YouTube. YouTube didn't put a gun to our head and say, hey, you got to use our platform to get this information out. So it's not like they're making us do it. So again, like I keep telling people, the moment we accept those terms and conditions, we are subjecting ourselves to their will because we clicked OK, yes, so on and so forth. So it makes no sense for us to get mad and get upset with YouTube when we're the ones that gave them permission to do what they're doing. So what we're doing is we're just taking the power back and we're broadcasting from our own platform. So it is our hope that you will come with us. If not, I mean, I get it. You gotta do what you gotta do. But YouTube is not going to stop us from putting this information out and getting this information out like we need it to be viewed and exposed. So if you have a problem with us putting it on our portal and our website, then you don't have to come visit. But if you want us to continue to expose this information and not be throttled, hampered, harassed by YouTube, then you'll come to our channel. So, I mean, the reason why I'm putting it out there because, again, the goal is to go live from our channel only starting, what is it, Bones, Monday?
Yep.
So that's what it boils down to, you know. Because as we continue to go through this, I don't know if y'all saw the new terms and agreement, but there's terms and agreement being pushed out now on YouTube. So check it out, look at it, and you know, before you agree to it, read it, no matter how painful it is, so you know exactly what you're getting into when you agree to these terms and conditions. That's around to be like that South Park edition of Apple. You end up being the new iPhone. So, just saying. So, we definitely appreciate y'all coming out. So we're gonna go ahead and give our salutations. We're gonna let you good people get on with the rest of your day, and we're gonna get on with ours. So, Gabby, got anything you want to say to good people before we get up out of here?
Sure. Peace, blessings to the panel. Peace, blessings to the chat. Very good information, very helpful information. Very heavy information today. I wish everyone well on their journeys and what they find out. I'm just definitely happy and ecstatic to be a part of it. That's it.
We're happy and excited to have you a part of it. And
Yay, thank you.
Enrique, come off you and give everybody a shout out of peace and blessings since you decided to cheat and come on to listen to the channel.
Peace to everybody. Peace to the panel. Peace to the chat. You know, I had to call in, man. There was too much going on with the system, so, you know, got tired of that buffering. But I just want to thank you guys again for another show, all the information that you put out. It's definitely helping me in my journey because, like I was telling y'all when I called in, I never would have knew the difference between Coosa and Coweta and being down there in Troup County where my grandma from. Y'all really helped me figure out where I was really from, which clan I really belong to, regardless of what anybody say, because I understand what my grandma say. So for that, I can't give y'all but a million thanks. So other than that, man, I just want y'all to keep doing what y'all doing. And when I get those articles of the corporation ready and my bylaws and everything, I'll let you know. And I appreciate all your help there, mate.
All right, Enrique. That's what's up. All right, no, sell out. Where you at?
Here you go. Here you go.
Enrique.
I muted him. He could. You could.
Making sure, you don't want anybody taking no holiday or nothing. But yeah, Grand Rising, peace to everybody, peace to the chat. You know, appreciate everybody for showing up today. Questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, email attentionassembly@gmail.com or call in like Enrique did. Peace, y'all.
So you just gonna tell people to call in now like Enrique did? Like that's gonna happen? Like people gonna actually do that?
Hey, people do it.
You gonna?
It's happening every day.
So we're gonna have like 15 people on the panel. That's what you're saying?
Probably get an extra hour out of you.
No.
But now, peace out.
Nah, look, we start getting that many people on the panel. I'm gonna start handing out reading assignments. That's what I'm gonna do.
You get paragraph 1, you get paragraph 2.
Exactly. So, all right. So, Copper, what you got for the good people, my brother?
All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the platform, regardless of whether we're doing it on YouTube or doing it on the site or both or wherever. It is definitely an honor to be among people who not only dig in and do this level of research and this level of analytics of history, but also people who are committed to doing the things that make our community better. And that is a profound privilege, and I am humbled by it every time I am on this panel. Thank you, and thank you for everybody that can hear this broadcast. We appreciate all of you. I've rambled quite a bit today, so I'll keep it as short as I can. But just remember, as we look at these wars, look at the people on both sides, the key figures, the generals from the armies and the militias, the chiefs and the fighters and the people of renown in these stories, and take some time and get to know these people. Get to know these fighters, these revolutionaries, because they are a very big key to what is going on, and a very big key to figuring out who we are and where we fit within this larger story. And always remember that this place, regardless of whether you think you're from here or from somewhere else, this place is where you are. This is your home. And if you don't take care of your home, who will? Almost certainly somebody else that wants to inhabit this place and make you leave. We're seeing it right now. We're seeing it. We don't have to go back far in history. We're seeing it right now all around us. So be mindful of that. And look around you. Look in your neighborhood. Look in your family. See the people that are around you and value them the same way you value the land that you're on. If we don't value these things, trust me, we will lose it. Thank you all. Grand Rising.
All right. Definitely appreciate that, Copper. So, James Flame, Choctaw Jimmy, the Issa, and I missed. What you got for the good people, bro? Before these good people get up out of here.
Man, it's been another hot one. Start calling y'all the hot boys. Oh, man. I can say to the greatest chat in the cosmos. Hey, Puss in Boots, man, you know, just come on up in here, the after hours, because we got to do a Grand Rising after hours for you, because you're hitting all those questions and I want to answer, but I don't want to go on for another 45 minutes. But I have some answers. I don't have all the answers, but I have some answers to what you were asking. Again, man, to Enrique Suave for calling in. Once again, he's like, man, you're excited when you find out who you are. It's like when you shake up a Dr. Pepper can and you just pop the top and it starts fizzing everywhere. That's what happens when you find out who you are and all these questions start being answered. You just can't help yourself. To Miss Gabrielle Union, once again, man, that's all I can say. I appreciate you more than you will ever know.
Yay!
Oh, man. I really do. You bring a whole new perspective to a lot of things. Because at times I could have tunnel vision and be single-minded, but I really do. I thank you for what you bring.
Gotta be good.
Man, I can say it's Brother Copper Indio. I told y'all gonna keep sleeping on Brother Copper Indio. Brother Copper Indio is like that phantom punch that Cassius Clay gave to Sonny Liston that nobody saw. The cameras didn't even catch it. That is Brother Copper Indio. It's like bam, he's out. You didn't see that punch? You didn't see that? Huh? You didn't see that coming? That's Brother Copper Indio. Man. Y'all better stop sleeping on him. I keep trying to tell y'all that. Keep sleeping if you want to. And like my grandmother said, you're going to wake up dead. Anyway, man, Brother No Sellout. Man, what we gonna do, man? I appreciate you, brother. No sellout. Got another meeting on Saturday night. Thanks to you, sir. Man, you know what? I'm going to call you so you can be a part of the meeting. So your Saturday night can be ruined as well.
Do it.
That's what I'm going to do.
Do it.
Hey, you know what? My availability. I'm open. I'm available. I'm available for this meeting.
Because I'm just not having it. So it's going to be at 9:30 your time. I'm going to call you so you can be up half the night with me doing these meetings, answering these questions. Because when they ask, how did all this come about? And I'm going to turn it over to you. And you're going to have to introduce yourself. That's how we're going to do that.
My name is
James is tired. He's tired. Man, Brother Thomas, I wasn't even expecting you to respond in the wee hours, man. I didn't know you were still up, but I should have known that because I always still up. Like I said, when I get an opportunity to share some information, because I don't want the people to think that I'm just getting on the mic freestyling. Because some people think like, oh man, he just up there and he don't know. He just think he know, but he don't know. So I didn't want anybody to think I was freestyling. So to make sure that information comes across, and so people won't have to guess and figure out where to find this information. Man, Cobb, you did it again, Cobb. All these places, man, that just keep coming up on these DNA tests, they just happen to be these British and American colonies. Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. And 80% of those being tested are from North America. Yeah, well, how they getting all these West African results? Yeah. Sierra Leone, Ghana, and people crying and getting emotional. I didn't know that's where I was from. Oh, I'm glad I know where I'm from now. You go ahead and go on back there if you want to. But don't go over there if you don't have any money. Ask the Haitians. That's why they were denied. But yet they want you all, and you go over there and they'll shoot you if you don't get them a Dr. Pepper. You don't have to believe me. Find out for yourself. Ask some people that have gone over there and talk about how much they got jacked up because they knew you were American and they wanted you to buy them American products. Give me Coca-Cola or I'll kill you. Now, I'm not telling you what I heard, telling you what I know. So you go over there faking the funk if you want to, and you're going to see what's going to happen to you. Now, I will end with the phrase that Guerrero gave when dealing with his father. And then I'll translate it for you, for those that don't understand, because he was multilinguist. He says, I read again what Compendio had already read earlier. The will of my father is for me sacred, but my fatherland is first. What he's saying is because his father wanted to surrender, to give up, and Guerrero said, no, I will not, because this is my father's land. Let that sink in. His father wanted to surrender, but he says, no, this is my father's land. Now I will translate that into Akkadian. The year was 1985. The song was Never Surrender. Corey Hart, translated. I'm off this cotton picking mic.
Oh, so y'all expect me to touch the mic?
Nah, man, I have on some brand new radioactive.
You got them silicone oven mitts?
Look, I got them heavy duty gamma ray mitts, man.
Oh, you got them NASA mitts. Okay.
I got them
All right.
NASA
The ones that they don't
mitts.
really
Not to
use.
be confused with the massa mitts, but I got the NASA. I got them NASA mitts, man.
You ain't got the massa knits.
Right.
You got the NASA mitts.
Yeah, I ain't got the massa knits. I got them NASA mitts.
Sorry, folks. This is the only way we can cool the mic off.
Yeah, I know. We gotta
talk about it.
We gotta talk about it. Yeah,
Use your breath to cool it off.
yeah. Make it. Mike loves laughter. I want to address something right quick. When Antonio was asking, and it was basically about what I'm gonna paraphrase this. So if I get it wrong, forgive me. We can correct it in the back check. You gotta understand what was going on when it came to these tribes and when it comes to these Indians. We were over here minding our business, doing what we do for centuries before the colonizers came over here. As the Isa were trading with other parts of the country and, planting seeds and creating children's like the military do today, like men in the military do today, and leaving babies over there, it was creating chaos and mayhem. And also, you got to look at the fact of these other tribes are already here. And then you have the French come over here first, and they start mixing in with the Indians from the north. And it went from greed with the Indians up north, and I'm paraphrasing, so I'm missing a lot of stuff out, so don't everybody get upset. It went from greed, dealing with the fur trade, to plain out survival. Because what the Indians up north thought they was going to get, they end up getting double and triple crossed. And then they put themselves in a pickle to where they had no choice but to help fight the Indians down south. The Indians down south was paying for transgressions that the East did a couple of thousands of years earlier. So what it basically boils down to is this. And I'm going to keep it as plain and as simple as I can put it based off of what I know and what I understand. You got to know who you're dealing with. And there are some people that do not need to be let into your community. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what race they are. I don't care who they are. Some people just don't need to be involved in your family, tribe. You put it together. Case in point, let's put it from a YouTube standpoint. Some people are just straight up thieves. They're scammers. And you got 2 to 3 choices. You can just not associate with them, and you ain't got to worry about them. That way you don't expose anybody you care about to them. So therefore, if you ain't dealing with them, nobody you concerned with is going to be dealing with them. That's the most preferred way to deal with it. The second way to deal with it is to be neutral. Like some of the tribes were. You be neutral. You cool with everybody, which basically means you cool with nobody because it's selfish interest. And then if you know that one tribe can't stand another tribe, and you know that tribe is scheming because they tell you everything and you don't say nothing and you just get out the way, you're part of the problem. Matter of fact, you're the biggest part of the problem because you're the bridge. Because just in case it didn't affect you, you inadvertently affected somebody that you was cool with. And you dealing with scammers, and you dealing with thieves, and you dealing with killers. So you actually are worse than the scammer. You're actually worse than the killer. You're actually worse than the thief because you're giving them access to somebody they wouldn't have access to. So therefore, you should, in my personal and humble opinion, let me put this out. The views and opinions of Thomas E. Harrelson Jr., aka TMH Global, are not those of a Toxic Assembly. But in my personal humble opinion, if you are neutral and you're dealing with thieves, crooks, scammers, and killers, you deserve a worse punishment than them because you're giving these people access to people that they wouldn't have access to normally. So Antonio, this is where we're at, and this is what happened. So in order to fix it, we need to stay away from the neutral people, and we need to stay away from the scammers. Because if not, it's going to be the same thing. Like they say, all skin folk ain't kin folk. And a scammer is a scammer regardless of their creed, religious color, or what have you. So if you want to deal with neutral people, stay as far away from me as humanly possible. Because if I find out you're a scammer, you affecting my people, ain't nothing gonna save you. So hopefully that answers your question. And hopefully that helps people understand why we rock with certain people and we don't rock with certain people. And if it don't, you can give me a call. I'll tell you the truth and I'll send you the receipts. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bones H. McCoy so he can do what he do, and we'll be out.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody on the panel this Rising for the work that they bring in and making it another great Rising show. I'd like to thank the chat, the ones that's active, every Rising, and the ones that just listen in to get the information. I want to leave out with this. We know over the last couple of days, we've seen the issues with trying to put out the information. We've seen that some parties that be want to make it difficult or want to suppress the information. We must remember, this is not the time that we get discouraged. This is not the time that we get frustrated. This is the time that we're supposed to lift our heads up, look straight ahead, and push even harder. Because if it's to the point to where after all this time, information is starting to be suppressed and held up, then that should be that check mark that we need to let us know we're going in the right direction. We should not fear what they try to program us to fear. We should not waver, not 1 second in our mission. We should not doubt our cause. By looking at what happened over the last couple of months, you can feel the change. You can see the shifting. The powers that be has us pegged, that they can push particular buttons, pull strings, show us particular images, and get us emotional and put us back on their program. I ask of all my relatives, let us be the generation that says no more. Let us be that generation that when our children look back in history, they can say our great-great-grandparents made a choice. And all I'm asking is let's do the same that was done for us. We might not understand the choices of our ancestors, the who, the whys, and the whats. But the one thing that we do know, because of their choices and decisions, we are still here today. So let's make that count for something. So on that note, everyone, continue to have a very, very blissful day. Take some time out to learn more about yourself with genealogy, 5 minutes, help someone else have a conversation. And until the next Rising Show where we get together, peace.
Peace.
Shout out to HR Puff and Stuff. He's cool with everybody.
Peace, y'all. Merchandise is now available.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe,